Unfortunately, young people today, I don't know, where they're getting their training, but they're not learning that stuff. And
Mhm.
and to me, the philosophy is just it's all action, bing, 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 bing. You got to bring it back to reality. If you want, it's a contest.
Right.
And if you're trying to beat someone, oh my God, if we wouldn't have covered somebody, oh, go back in the locker room, we would have been chewed out like first Verne, then Ray Stevens, then
Oh
Nick
man, what a
Bachman.
lot
I mean, the whole
cheeseburgers
crew
row.
would have come in and chewed our ass out. You know, uh, it's a contest. So if you're going for the world title and the guy's down, why would you walk away and try to maybe knock somebody off the apron? Makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I have from the background I came with. Steamboat was trained by Verne.
Yeah.
He trained, 144 guys he trained, only Gene Anderson, I can go back and back the names of people. And that was all part of our training. And we were 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. And we did that for 3 months before we even had an opportunity to get in the ring. And before I could even go in the ring, I had to drive the ring truck, put the ring up, take it down, and referee.
Man.
He said, you're going to learn this. You want to be in this business, you're going to learn from the bottom up and respect this business, how hard it is and what you have to do, and at every level. And that's where a lot of these people today, just watching the matches, I can tell, it drives me nuts. I'll sit there and I'll go, cover him.
Yeah,
or
right.
do this, or you've been working the arm, grab the arm. Why go grab a leg?
Yeah.
It makes no freaking sense at all.
Well, Greg, talk about too.
Sorry.
That's okay. Talk about the aspect, like Verne training Steamboat and like kind of conveying a lot of that, like what Steamboat was getting across these guys. I'm sure like he learned a lot from Verne too. And
he did. I mean, and then he had different. We started out, our first hour was all calisthenics, and we had to build up to do 1,000 free squats nonstop. So we did all these calisthenics. The next hour we got in the ring and we did more calisthenics. Ring calisthenics, where you get down on all fours, and there were 6 of us. So there'd be 3 down on all fours. The other 3 then would sit on your back. So if my head's facing this way, Pater would get on my back facing the other way, then he would curl back like he was going to do a sit-up, and you have to push your head down, and then you'd have to bring him back up with your neck.
Jeez.
And then we would stand in the turnbuckle with our feet up in the turnbuckle and roll around on our necks to build up the necks. That's how I got such a big neck.
I'm just getting ready to say.
You were going to say something. You were going to call me a turkey neck. I know you were.
No, I would say it looked like a stack of dimes.
So then we had an hour of stuff like that, and then learning your bounce. So he'd even have us do a lot of amateur wrestling, sitting out in reverses, stuff like that. Then the next hour was all hitting the ropes. And when you first start hitting those ropes, I mean, it tears the skin from here down.
Oh, yeah.
And you learn how to get your arm up on the rope and your leg blocking it so you don't go through the ropes. Well, the Iron Sheik went through those ropes about 3 different times and straight down on the hard frozen floor of the barn.
Oh, the barn, yeah.
Knocked them cold. And when he'd get up, they'd throw him right back in the ring and do it over. I mean, there was no holding back. And then we'd do holds and counter holds and an hour of that. And we had Verne and Billy Robinson who would throw in that European style for us.
Yeah.
And then the last hour he'd put, and now we're by the time we got the last hour and say we're now into December, they've moved up the program for us because we're getting more along. So there'd be five guys on the outside of the ring, one in the middle. Then the first guy would get in and say it's Patera and Flair.
Yeah.
And he goes 3 minutes with each guy. So Patera is the lead guy. Flair goes in. Verne will yell out, tie up, take a headlock, shoot him off, 2 tackles, hip toss, arm drag, get it again, boom, back up and do it again. They go 3 minutes nonstop. Then Patera would stay in the ring and the next guy would get in. So you go through 5 guys. So, it was 15 to 20 minutes of just boom, 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 boom. And they're calling out stuff one after another. And you just have to, lock up, take the headlock, shoot them off, bing, 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 bing. Well, then, it's like 15, 20 below zero outside. And that freaking barn's pretty damn cold. The last guy, you'd be sweating. By the time you got to the front of the line, your sweatsuit was stuck to you. It was ice.
Frozen.
They'd grab a headlock, tackle, body slam, boom, and geez, like you just shattered. But and then it progressed from there till we went into matches, and they would call them out and learning how to throw a good solid punch, and it was, and then after the last hour, we had a run. We ran down to, you had a lake. It was about half a mile. You'd run 10 yards, walk 10 yards, back up, came back to the barn. Then we go across the street. He owned some land over there. It was on the riverbeds, and they had the big clay hills. We had to run up and down those and then come back to the barn. And, now you're in December and January, and it's black. It's dark out at 4:00.
In Minnesota, nonetheless.
Here it was 360 when he came in. He was 320 when he got out. Flair came in at 290, and he came back at 260. But the two of them, they'd be the last two coming in, and they're running, and their feet they're only moving about that far, and we'd be about any 15 to 20 minutes ahead of them. We'd be yelling, "Get your asses in here! Let's go! Come on, sprint in here!" But and then they would constantly talk philosophy with us, and when to do something, when not to do it, and how to do it. Show us how. So, it was really an education, and that was 3 solid months, 6 days a week. But so when we came out there, we were pretty much ready.
Yeah. You see, and you think about it too, like you mentioned it, like, with a lot of these guys, how they're trained or whatever. And I'm sure a good amount of them go through good schools. Like, there's a lot of good schools out there, but then there's some stuff maybe they just learn the move sets and they don't teach them the psychology or the philosophy.
No, I don't think they do. They just teach them, moves and that, and the flips and the flops, and there has to be a story told in a match.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what we learned. And they would call these things out. Oh, I forgot one other. In that last hour, we had about a half hour of submission wrestling.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that was fun. They'd show you about three different holds, and then you'd have to get on the mat. So Verne would have Flair and Billy Robinson would have me, and then they'd do something. They'd say, "Okay, there's the arm." So now you got to think, okay, and then you go to do the arm, and they would reverse it and stick your foot right up your ass, right up the back of your neck. That was a lot of fun. But we learned how to defend ourselves. And what was really funny, and I don't think it really set into me till they sent Jim and I down to Atlanta. And we were supposed to work a program with Cowboy Bob Orton and Dick Slater. Mm-hmm. They were the tag team champions. So they brought us in for that. So the first night we get in there, we work with Dr. Jerry Graham and Rip Hawk.
Okay.
Columbus, Georgia. The place is sold out. We're on the second match, and we feel nobody knows us. We went about 25 minutes with these two old timers and tore the place down. And the promoter at that time, or the booker, got mad at us. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're having a match, but that should only been about an 8-10 minute match." We told you. Well, shit, we had the people going, And Rip Hawk and Graham came in and just, thanked us because they were being used. They were old timers, and everybody was just kind of hammering them.
Yeah.
And so after that, they booked us with Bob Backlund and Jerry Briscoe for the next 2 weeks in clean matches.
Whoa.
But the first night in the locker room where I was going with this, and where I finally learned, a guy named Brute Bernard was in the locker room, and we went down, sat down next to him. And I don't know if I can say this on the air, what he said to us. I'll try to make it easy here.
We can edit it.
Can you?
Oh,
he
yeah.
Said, well, he said, "Your dad is a cocksucker." And I said, "Well, I'm sure he felt the same way about you." I said, "Do you have a problem with us?" And I stood up, And he looked at me and he stood up, and him and his partner walked out of the locker room.
Wow.
So we grabbed our bags, we followed him right in. I sat down by him. I said, so if you have a problem with me or my dad, come on, I'm here. Go ahead, take your shot. And he looked at me and shook my hand.
What?
He said, I respect you. But I think, and as we went through the next week like that, those guys were leery of us because of the background and the training we had. And we weren't afraid of anybody. And Verne told us that when we got out of the camp, he said, you don't have to be afraid of anybody. They give you crap. Just here, we've showed you enough. Just hammer them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after that, man, everybody was just really nice to us.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. But I mean, that was just coming from that school that he had built up over those years. 144 wrestlers he trained. And only about 3% didn't make it to the main event stature.
Wow.
Yeah. That's unheard of. And I mean, you were taught, the ring work, the psychology, and I'm sure that's what Steamboat was trying to pass on to these young guys.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody that gets it, and I think learns that properly, they'll go right to the top in either the WWE or into, AEW or any of the other, or TNA, any of them.
Right. Mm-hmm.